Welcome, brave souls, to another spine-chilling Sunday special. Before we dive into these chilling stories, we'll give you a sneak peek into each one, so you can decide which ones will keep you up all night. Here's what's in store for you today. 1. Pranav's chilling encounter, a childhood haunted by supernatural forces, forever changed by a single eerie event. A mysterious woman's dark secret and an otherworldly voice lead to terrifying consequences. What happened next, and why does Pranav still feel her presence 42 years later? 2. Frozen in fear, imagine moving into a new place, excited for a fresh start, only to find yourself trapped in a nightmare of paranormal activities. Lakshmi's chilling story unfolds with strange noises, eerie presences, and an invisible force that holds her back. What secrets did the PG accommodation hold, and how did she escape the haunting spirits? 3. Mother's horrific sacrifice to end a curse. A mother's desperate quest for a child leads her to make a deal with a mysterious ascetic, but at what cost? Will she be able to bear the consequences of her actions? 4. Vanished call center worker. The creepy truth. A model employee vanishes without a trace, leaving behind a trail of mystery and terror. What secrets did she hide, and what happened to her? 5. Highway horror. A man picks up a beautiful stranger on a deserted highway, only to discover she's linked to a recent crime. A girl raped in an Audi car just minutes before. As they drive, her dark secret unfolds, leading to a tragic and bloody encounter. Will they survive the night? Are you ready to meet the unknown? Let the nightmares begin. Story 1. Pranav's chilling encounter. Paranormal shock. What you're about to hear is a story that has haunted Pranav for decades. A story he's requested we share with you all. It's a tale from his childhood, but the consequences have followed him all the way into adulthood. Even at the age of 42, the eerie events of that time still send shivers down his spine. So brace yourself for a journey that takes you deep into the shadows, where supernatural forces are at play. Pranav, who lives in Vadodara, Gujarat, comes from a family that originally hails from Bihar. His family settled in the city when he was just a boy, and his life seemed like any other. But when he was in the 5th grade, something happened, something that would change him forever. The house Pranav and his parents lived in was right next to a flat rented by a woman who had just moved in a few months before. She and Pranav's mother quickly became close friends. They talked, played, and visited each other's homes as though they had known each other forever. But the woman had a secret, a dark, unspoken sorrow that gnawed at her. Despite all her efforts, she couldn't conceive a child. She had tried everything: doctors, treatments, prayers. Nothing worked. Pranav's mother would often comfort her, telling her to trust in God, assuring her that things would get better. But there was something else about this woman that unsettled the neighbors. Though they could never quite put their finger on it, she seemed different, and soon Pranav would learn why. You see, young Pranav had an insatiable love for sweets. His mother knew this all too well, often hiding treats around the house so he wouldn't devour them all in one go. One day, the woman next door brought some sweets, lattice, to Pranav's mother. Wanting to keep them away from her son, she hid them in the house. But when Pranav came home from school that day, something bizarre happened. He heard a voice whispering in his ear, "The lattice are hidden there." It was clear as day, but no one was around. Curiosity, or perhaps something more sinister, took hold of him, and without thinking, he went straight to the spot and ate every last laddu. His mother was baffled. How had Pranav known where she hid them? Days passed, and the woman next door suddenly left without a word. She didn't tell anyone where she was going or why she was leaving so abruptly. But soon after, Pranav's health began to decline rapidly. For 5 long days, Pranav lay in bed, motionless. He wouldn't eat, drink, or even speak. His parents were beside themselves with worry. It was as though Pranav had been drained of life itself. All he would say over and over was that he wanted kheer made from the rice that the woman had given to his mother before she left. It was an odd request, and his mother was deeply unsettled. Why that rice? Why that kier? Then, one night, something strange happened. Around 2 a.m., Pranav woke up and spoke for the first time in days. He told his father, "I need to go to the washroom." His father was overjoyed. Finally, a sign of life. But then Pranav said something chilling. "Not here. I feel suffocated inside. Take me outside. I need fresh air." His father, desperate to see his son improve, agreed. They walked out to a nearby field, and Pranav went behind a tree to relieve himself. But then, something happened. Pranav saw a woman, a figure with a burnt face, her body twisted and broken, crawling toward him. She was moving slowly, painfully, but with a chilling determination. And then he heard the voice again, the same voice that had led him to the lattice. "Come with me." Pranav said he wasn't scared. He should have been terrified, but instead, he felt drawn to her, hypnotized by the voice. He started walking toward her, step by step, unable to resist. His father, who had been looking the other way, had no idea what was happening. Just as Pranav was about to reach her, a man, someone he couldn't quite identify, suddenly appeared. The stranger grabbed Pranav and pulled him back. Pranav passed out. When he came to, he found himself standing next to his father, as though nothing had happened. But something had happened, something dark. His father was confused. "How did you get here so quickly? You were just by the tree," he asked. Pranav said nothing except, "I'm done. Let's go home." And they did. But Pranav's mother wasn't satisfied with his father's explanation of what had happened. She felt there was something more, something supernatural at play. The next day, they called a tantric, a practitioner of black magic. What he revealed sent chills down their spines. The tantric examined Pranav and said, "This boy is under a powerful curse. Someone has performed black magic on him. Was there anyone nearby who was into such things?" It hit his mother like a lightning bolt. The woman next door. She had always spoken of dark rituals and the ancient black magic her ancestors practiced. The tantric asked, "Did she give you anything? Food, perhaps?" His mother remembered the lattice Pranav had eaten. The tantric explained that the woman had cursed the sweets. Pranav had unknowingly consumed something far more dangerous than sugar and flour. She had cast a spell that would cause Pranav to die in a few months. This, he said, was an ancient black magic ritual, sacrificing someone else's child to conceive her own. The woman had intended for Pranav's death to grant her the child she so desperately wanted. Pranav's parents were devastated. His father, overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow, begged the tantric to save his son. For months, Pranav underwent rituals, prayers, and treatments to break the curse. His parents spent all they had to save him, traveling from place to place in search of a cure. Finally, after 6 to 8 months of relentless effort, Pranav was freed from the curse. But even now, at 42 years old, he says he sometimes feels the woman's presence, as though she's still watching him, waiting. And that, dear listeners, is Pranav's story. A tale of dark magic, a curse, and the eerie whispers that still echo in his mind. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's that sometimes the darkest forces come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes the things we cannot see are far more dangerous than what we can. Thank you for listening, and remember, be careful who you trust. Story 2, Frozen in Fear, The Hostile Spirit Trap. This story comes from one of our longtime followers, Lakshmi, who lives in Unnao, Kanpur. She shared with us a chilling incident that happened to her back in 2006, and it involves a PG, paying guest, accommodation, or hostel. The eerie nature of the story will leave you on the edge of your seat, just as Lakshmi felt when she experienced it firsthand. So, without wasting any time, let's dive straight into the real story. It was 2006, and Lakshmi, fresh out of college, had just completed her graduation. She decided to pursue a BCA, Bachelor of Computer Applications, and moved from Unnao to Jaipur, which was about 2.5 hours away from her hometown. Since daily commuting wasn't an option, Lakshmi and her friend found a PG to stay in. The PG was a 3-story building, with each floor divided into 1-bedroom units. Lakshmi and her friend were allotted a room on the top floor, which was the 3rd floor. Above their room was a terrace, and on the terrace was a small storeroom. Lakshmi shared that their stay at the PG was short-lived, and the reason behind it was a series of paranormal activities. These occurrences were so terrifying that Lakshmi, just 21 or 22 at the time, was left deeply shaken. It got to a point where she couldn't stay there any longer. What exactly happened to her? Let's discuss it. When Lakshmi first moved in, it took her a couple of days to settle in, unpack, and adjust to the new environment. She had to attend college regularly for her further education, so she couldn't afford to miss the initial days. Life seemed to be going smoothly. She loved her college, and academically, she was always a bright student. But then, things took a turn. A couple of days after moving in, Lakshmi and her friends started hearing strange noises coming from the terrace late at night, around midnight. At first, they thought it was the other PG residents, as the building housed several students. The noises seemed like footsteps, as if someone was walking on the terrace. For the first few nights, they ignored it, thinking it was nothing unusual. However, the sounds became stranger. It wasn't just footsteps anymore. It started sounding like someone was moving heavy objects around, like a gas cylinder or bricks being dragged across the floor. One night, Lakshmi told her friend, "Let's go check it out. Maybe there's a party happening on the terrace, or someone's having a bonfire." And that, Lakshmi says, was their biggest mistake. By this time, they had been staying in the PG for about 5 days, and nothing like this had ever happened in their homes before. But on the terrace, they felt something different. When they went up to check, they found no one there. Yet, the eerie noises continued, as if someone invisible was walking right behind them. They could feel a presence but couldn't see anyone. Shocked and frightened, Lakshmi and her friend decided to head back to their room, thinking it must have been their imagination playing tricks on them. Lakshmi was walking ahead, and her friend was following behind her. Suddenly, her friend whispered, "Lakshmi." When Lakshmi turned around, she saw her friend frozen in place, as if something unseen was holding her back. She couldn't move or speak. In sheer terror, they managed to chant the names of the gods they believed in and somehow broke free from whatever was holding them. They rushed back to their room, and neither of them could sleep that night. For the next few days, the situation worsened. Every night around midnight, the same footsteps would echo on the terrace. The door to the storeroom would creak open on its own, and strange incidents started happening in their room. Things would move on their own, utensils would fall, the fridge door would open by itself, and at times, they felt someone was sitting right next to them, pulling on their bed sheets. Lakshmi was terrified and didn't know what to do. They were too scared to tell their parents, fearing they might be called back home, which would disrupt their studies. So, they made a pact never to go up to the terrace again and to stay confined to their room as much as possible. But the hauntings didn't stop. Every night, like clockwork, they would hear the same footsteps on the stairs, leading up to the storeroom. It was as if someone was walking up and down, opening the storeroom door, and then roaming around the building. Finally, Lakshmi and her friend couldn't take it anymore and decided to tell their families. As expected, their parents asked them to come home immediately. Worried that something had followed their daughters, the families called in a spiritual expert. Upon visiting the house, the expert confirmed their worst fears. The storeroom on the terrace was home to the spirits of an elderly couple. The expert explained that the caretaker of the building would lock them in the storeroom during the day, and at midnight, he would unlock it, allowing them to roam freely around the building. The spirits weren't malicious, but they were trapped in the building and craved the freedom to move around at night. When Lakshmi and her family confronted the PG owner, he revealed a disturbing truth. The building was once owned by his parents, who had lived there before the owner moved abroad. His parents were left to manage the entire building on their own. And one day, feeling abandoned and overwhelmed, they committed suicide in the storeroom. Since then, their spirits haunted the building, especially the terrace. Despite previous attempts to cleanse the house spiritually, the owner admitted that the hauntings continued. He promised to cleanse the place again and allowed Lakshmi and her friend to safely retrieve their belongings, with added security for their protection. Lakshmi concluded by saying that if they hadn't acted when they did, they might have succumbed to the overwhelming fear and pressure. She emphasizes to all of you watching, whenever you move to a new place, always ensure it is cleansed spiritually. Pray and stay connected to your beliefs to protect yourself from any negative forces. This was Lakshmi's terrifying experience, and thankfully, she and her friend moved to a safer PG and completed their studies. But the memory of that haunted PG will always stay with her. Story 3. Mother's horrific sacrifice to end a curse. This is a real story that is 50 years old, which happened to Ashish's mother. Ashish shared, Ankur Bai, 50 years ago, after my mother got married, she was never able to conceive a child in her in-laws' house. Despite many efforts, visiting various temples, and consulting numerous tantric practitioners and priests, every time my mother's horoscope was read, she was always told that there was no possibility of her having children. This meant that according to her horoscope, she could not bear children. Because of this, my mother had to endure a lot of taunts. She was often criticized in her in-laws' house, being labeled as a barren woman. I can't imagine how you would feel about such a situation, but women who have faced similar problems can relate. At that time, Ashish hadn't been born yet, but his mother would later recount these events to him. He said, Ankur Bai, you won't believe it, but back then, being labeled barren was often associated with supernatural causes, like some kind of evil spirit devouring the child. Such things were very common in villages, and even today, these beliefs persist in rural areas. In cities, people seek medical treatments, but in villages, it's often linked to paranormal activities. I asked Ashish what happened next. He shared, one evening, a wandering ascetic came to our house and asked for food. My mother offered him food and then, overwhelmed with her situation, explained that it had been 2 to 3 years since her marriage and she still hadn't conceived a child. Everywhere we went, we received discouraging responses, like I wasn't destined to have children. But I had never done anything wrong to deserve this. Ashish's mother came from a simple family and shared her situation with the ascetic. After listening to her, the ascetic said, Daughter, there are many sorrows written in your life, but if you wish, you can find relief from them. Hearing this, Ashish's mother asked how that could be possible. The ascetic told her that she would need to perform a Mahayajna, a grand fire ritual, after which things in her life might change. This suggestion was shared with the entire family. Ashish's mother then convinced her husband and mother-in-law to agree, thinking that since they had tried everything, why not try this as well? The family agreed to perform the yajna, despite the expenses involved. The ascetic provided a list of items required for the ritual, which would start at 11 p.m. and last through the night. When the night arrived, the family gathered, including Ashish's father and grandmother, to participate in the yajna. As the ritual reached its peak, with the fire flames touching the walls, the ascetic assured them that the yajna would be complete by 5 a.m. At the end, when they asked what his payment was, the ascetic replied that he wanted nothing in return, except that the woman who fed him would receive the happiness she deserved. Before leaving, the ascetic told Ashish's mother, I will give you a child, but you must accept 2 conditions. If you don't, your entire family could be in danger. Desperate for a child, Ashish's mother agreed to do whatever it took. The ascetic warned, first, when the child is born, you must not tell anyone in your family that you have given birth. Second, you must bring the child to me immediately after birth, no matter what. Though worried about how she would fulfill these conditions, Ashish's mother agreed, desperate for a child. Miraculously, within a month, she became pregnant. As her pregnancy progressed, the family's attitude towards her changed, and they stopped criticizing her. They thanked the ascetic who resided in a nearby temple. As her belly grew, so did the family's excitement about the child's arrival. However, Ashisha's mother constantly remembered the ascetic's conditions. When the time for delivery came, medical facilities weren't as readily available as they are now, and doctors were not always present in hospitals. Fortunately, the nurse was a close friend of Ashisha's mother and had been informed about the situation beforehand. In those days, hospitals didn't allow many people inside during deliveries, and only one person was allowed to stay behind while others had to leave. After the delivery, the doctor left, and no family member had yet seen the child. That same night, Ashisha's mother took the newborn child to the Agori and said, "Here is the child. Please bless him." The Agori looked at Ashisha's mother and said, "You will have to bury this child in the ground." Hearing this, Ashisha's mother was horrified, thinking that after all these years of prayers and rituals, she finally had a child, and now she would have to bury him. The tantric reminded her of the two conditions. First, to keep the child hidden, and second, to do whatever he said, or else her entire family would be destroyed. After a discussion that lasted 15 to 20 minutes, Ashisha's mother reluctantly accepted that they would bury the first child. The Agori instructed them to place a 1 rupee coin in the baby's hand before burying him. Following his instructions, they buried the baby, placing the coin in his hand. After burying the child, Ashisha's mother was crying profusely. The Agori looked at her and said, "Don't worry, happiness will come into your life, but understand that you were never meant to have a child. It was written in your fate. We are only performing the necessary rituals to correct this." After hearing this, Ashisha's mother returned home. When she was asked about the baby, the nurse who was with her said, "The baby was born dead." The family was heartbroken, and once again, they scolded Ashisha's mother, blaming her for their misfortune, calling her barren, and cursing her for not being able to bring a child into the family. Ashisha's mother recalled the Agori's words that when the second child would come, she was not to tell anyone and was to bring the baby to him. This thought deeply troubled her, fearing that the Agori might make similar demands again. A month or two later, she conceived for the second time. The family's hopes were high, believing they would finally get to see the face of a healthy baby in their home. When the second baby was born, Ashisha's mother once again took the child to the Agori. The Agori told her, "You will have to kill this baby too." Hearing this, it might seem unbelievable, but when you listen to the recording of Ashisha's story, you will understand the pain in his voice as he recounts what happened. Ashisha's mother cried bitterly, asking the Agori, "Why are you doing this? Are you trying to fulfill some personal need of yours?" The Agori became angry and told her, "If I wanted to fulfill a personal need, I wouldn't need to kill children. I could use my powers to kill anyone I want." Ashisha's mother cried even more. The Agori then reassured her, "Don't worry. The next child you bear will be yours to keep." With a heavy heart, Ashisha's mother agreed to bury the second child. The Agori instructed her to place a 2 rupee coin in the baby's hand before burying him. Following the instructions, the child was buried with a 2 rupee coin in his hand. After this, the Agori said, "Now you need not worry. Everything that needed to be done is now complete. The next child you have will be yours to keep." Ashisha's mother returned home, but once again, the family was devastated, mourning the loss of another child. When she told the family that the baby was stillborn, the household was filled with sorrow. Ashisha's father was advised to marry again. His wife, however, pleaded with him, saying, "Give me one more chance to have a child. If something goes wrong, you can kill me or throw me out of the house and get married again." The family reluctantly agreed, and for the third time, she conceived. When the third baby was born, it was a healthy child. Ashisha's mother once again took the baby to the Agori. This time, the Agori said, "This child is auspicious for you. You can keep him." That child was none other than Ashish, who is telling this story. When Ashisha's mother took the baby to the Agori, she asked him, "Why did you make me kill my first 2 children? What was the reason behind it?" The Agori replied, "The day you fed me, I became indebted to you. We Agoris can only repay our debts by giving something in return, something that will bring good into your life." Ashisha's mother asked, "Why did you have to kill my children?" The Agori explained, "You were never meant to have children. That was your fate. I spoke to certain powers and convinced them that if they were given the sacrifice of 2 children, they would allow you to keep the 3rd child." He added, "Even if you had kept the 1st or the 2nd child, the 1st would have died by the age of 16, and the 2nd would have died by the age of 20. They were never meant to live long." The Agori assured her that Ashish was the child meant to bring happiness into her life and that he would survive. Upon hearing this, Ashisha's mother returned home, where the family was overjoyed to see the healthy baby. Ashish, the family's fortunes began to change. Their business flourished, and everything seemed to go well. There were no further problems in their lives. However, deep down, Ashisha's mother felt a lingering guilt, feeling that she should have told her family about the sacrifices she had made. When she finally revealed the truth to her family about the 2 children she had lost due to the Agori's demands, the family was devastated. Ashisha's father and other family members were furious, asking why she hadn't told them sooner. They felt that they might have been able to find an alternate solution. They were heartbroken that 2 of Ashisha's older brothers had been lost due to the instructions of the Agori. However, the Agori had told Ashisha's mother that she was never meant to have children, and perhaps, in some way, he had made things right by ensuring that Ashish survived. Story 4. Vanished Call Center Worker. The Creepy Truth. The story revolves around a calm Russia and the call center at the Kidney Center, which is okay and named section. The name was Preeti, but she is famous by the name Nehru and is very, very famous. This is a well-known incident that took place around 2005. At that time, a video was made in Gurgaon, where people were working. It shows the progress of Preeti in Russia as she continued with her actions and eventually became the president. She gained a lot from this. Specifically, she used to work daily, doing all her tasks on time, delivering even more than required. Every day, she would arrive on time, leave on time, but would never fail to meet her target. If it meant staying for several more hours, she would do it to ensure the call center's work was completed. She received full credit for completing her tasks, with team leaders and managers all recognizing her. Month after month, she was awarded Employee of the Month. She was so good that her template became the perfect one for Android. She was also a control person, and her best friend worked alongside her, which led to them becoming great friends. Both teams worked together until the friendship became strong. Preeti would work late till 2:30 p.m. with her friend. They helped each other complete their targets, ensuring success. This was Russia, a perfect employee. She was aspirational, and people would often ask, "How do you manage to work so much?" She was praised throughout the office, particularly at the call center. People would salute her hard work and ask how she did it. Every time there was pressure, she would face it, work, and earn her salary by talking to people. She never let her work affect her life. One day, as her shift was about to end, everyone had finished their work and was about to leave. Suddenly, the phone at Preeti's desk rang. She picked it up, and it was an invite call asking her to come in. She answered the call, and her team leader, sitting nearby, noticed. He confirmed that it was Preeti and her work. After 20 minutes, Preeti was still on the call, lasting up to 40 minutes. She was trying to help out with something, but when she checked, there was nobody on the other end of the line. She thought something was wrong, but the phone call went on for 40 minutes without anything happening. Felt strange. Her team lead asked, "Who are you talking to?" Preeti replied that there was nobody on the line. She ignored the situation as personal and didn't want to share more. The next day, Preeti didn't come to the office. Her friend tried to check and found out that Preeti had taken leave. It was unexpected since she had no family issues. She was usually very focused on her work. The friend guessed that something had happened the previous night, which caused her to be upset and take leave. There are no more videos coming up. The HR department doesn't know how Preeti has been missing for the past 3 to 5 days, continuously crying. It was unheard of that Preeti would be absent from the office, and it was also unusual that no follow-up had been made about her absence. After the call, her mind was racing, and there were concerns that she might be in danger, kidnapped, or something terrible could have happened. The HR management was informed, and they told the department to find out where she was. If necessary, they would involve the police. They started searching and found Preeti's address. When they went there, they were informed that no girl by that name lived at that address. It was as if she had never existed there. This scared them and they became anxious. They thought something might have happened to her. They searched everywhere for her, checking every detail and asking for information from her parents. This process took almost 3 months, and during this time, Preeti was missing every day. There was no complaint from her company's team. The police had been notified, but they couldn't find any clues. After a week, the report came in, indicating that she had disappeared, and the company was liable for her whereabouts. The police tried but found nothing. For 3 months, they were looking for her, and the HR department in Bengal eventually found her relatives. They discovered that Preeti had actually died 8 years ago. The person they had been communicating with was not Preeti but someone else. This was a shocking revelation, as she was thought to have been working with them. The revelation that she had died years ago and that someone else was pretending to be her was startling. It caused a major disruption and shock among her colleagues and friends. This incident was a part of the BPO industry and its operations. If you search for it, you can find more information about it. It is a true story, and if you were in a similar situation where you found out that someone you thought was alive had actually died years ago, how would you react? Let me know in the comments section. Story 5. Highway Horror. The Girl Who Changed Everything. The story begins with an Audi car speeding down the highways near Kochi at around 150 kilometers per hour. Inside, a man is driving and crying profusely. He is so engrossed in his tears that he can barely see anything ahead, but his focus remains on the highway. Suddenly, he jolts back to reality and regains his composure. In the background, experts might say that if he hadn't come to his senses in time, it could have been disastrous. The man was driving because he had a request from someone who had left home after a fight with his father. He was very angry and disappointed, feeling betrayed by his father's words. He realized that what he was doing was wrong and decided to return home. As he drove, he thought about his situation and how far he had strayed from home. He decided to turn the car around and head back, maintaining a normal speed of 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. While driving, he noticed a girl standing by the side of the road, holding a Nokia S60 phone. She signaled him to stop the car. The girl was very beautiful, and he found himself captivated by her charm. The girl asked if she could get a ride to Mumbai, explaining that she needed to reach there for work. It was around 11:30 p.m., and she was stranded on the highway after being left behind by her friends who were joking around. The man agreed to give her a ride, and as they started talking, he shared his story with her. He told her about his fight with his father and how he had impulsively left home. The girl listened intently, and he felt a connection with her. As they continued their journey, the man realized that he had been foolish to leave home without resolving the issue with his father. He decided to return home and make amends. We should not consider our parents' words to be bad. They say things for our good, and we should understand this. So, let's continue the story. As they were talking, they suddenly saw a petrol pump. The man turned his car towards the pump and stopped to fill up on petrol. At the station, he noticed some workers reading news on their phones. The news mentioned that a girl had been raped in an Audi car just 5 minutes earlier, and the perpetrators had been arrested but later released due to lack of evidence. The man felt a chill as he realized the girl he had picked up might be involved in this incident. He wondered what would happen next and how people would react if they found out about such crimes. The girl noticed his concern and asked if he knew anything about the incident. He replied that he had just read about it on someone's phone. She then revealed that she was the girl in question, explaining that she and her friends had been out that night when 3 boys attacked them, leading to her friend's murder. She told him that the boys were suspected but released due to lack of evidence, and now people were harassing her family, accusing her of being responsible for her friend's death. The man was shocked and realized he had unknowingly picked up the girl from the news story. As they continued driving, the girl suddenly took control of the steering wheel and turned it sharply, causing the car to stop abruptly. Before the man could react, he heard a loud train horn and saw a train approaching. The girl's face turned pale and she collapsed. In the next moment, there was complete silence inside the car. The man found himself covered in blood with no signs of anyone else around. After some time, when things settled down, it became clear that the girl was indeed involved in a dark past. The story ends with a warning about being cautious when picking up strangers on highways, especially at night. Key learnings from the stories. Story 1. Pranav's Chilling Encounter 1. Trust wisely. The story highlights the importance of being cautious about who you trust. The woman next door seemed friendly but had a dark secret, which led to severe consequences for Pranav. 2. Supernatural forces. It emphasizes that there are forces beyond our understanding that can affect our lives. Being aware of these possibilities can help in taking preventive measures. 3. Family support. The story shows how crucial family support is during difficult times. Pranav's parents went to great lengths to save him from the curse. 4. Seeking help. When dealing with supernatural or unexplained phenomena, seeking help from experts, like the tantric in this story, can be crucial. Story 2. Frozen in Fear 1. Be aware of your environment. Lakshmi's experience teaches us to be aware of our surroundings and any unusual activities that might indicate paranormal presence. 2. Communication is key. Lakshmi and her friend initially tried to handle the situation alone, which worsened their fear. Communicating with family and seeking help was essential in resolving the issue. 3. Spiritual cleansing. The story underscores the importance of spiritually cleansing a new place before moving in to avoid negative energies or spirits. 4. Believe in your beliefs. Lakshmi's faith and prayers helped her and her friend break free from the unseen forces holding them back, emphasizing the power of belief and prayer. Story 3. Mother's horrific sacrifice to end a curse. 1. Caution with strangers. Both stories caution against trusting strangers too quickly, whether it's picking up someone on the highway or befriending someone new in your neighborhood. 2. Importance of family. Family support is a recurring theme in both stories, highlighting its importance during challenging times. 3. Awareness and preparation. Being aware of potential dangers, whether supernatural or otherwise, and taking preventive measures can significantly reduce risks. 4. Seeking help when needed. Don't hesitate to seek help when faced with situations beyond your control. Whether it's spiritual experts or family members, support is crucial. Story 4. Vanished Call Center Worker Identity and Deception. The story highlights the dangers of deception and identity theft, emphasizing the importance of verifying identities and backgrounds. Workplace dynamics. It shows how a seemingly perfect employee can hide a dark truth, underscoring the need for thorough background checks and workplace vigilance. Story 5. Highway Horror Caution with Strangers. This story reinforces the importance of being cautious when interacting with strangers, especially in isolated or vulnerable situations. Unseen dangers. It illustrates that there are often unseen dangers in life, and being prepared or aware can help mitigate risks. Before we wrap up, I kindly ask for your support. Subscribe to Horror Stories and hit the bell icon to be the first to catch our latest updates. Stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.